Why did the chicken cross the road? That's been a question that's been asked probably for centuries, I can imagine. It's a joke that probably has a never ending list of answers. And today we're going to be asking the question, why did the rooster cross the road? And I'm here with Connie Tate, and she is the author of Rooster 99. And we will be talking to Connie a bit about her book and the inspiration behind that book. But first, I just want to welcome everyone to the first ever episode of the Coffee and Kidlit show. This is a fun show that I am expecting to just really be fun to interview other authors about their journey in publishing and the inspiration behind their children's books. By the way, my name is Travis D. Peterson. I am a book designer, so I do help other children's book authors produce their books. I'm also an author. My first book is Ada and the Helpers, which you can see here. And you can actually find the link to my books as well as Connie's book down in the description below. So thanks so much for joining us. By the way, if you're watching, comment below what your favorite answer is to why did the chicken cross the road. And Connie, thank you so much for joining us. Could you just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, good morning, Travis, and thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I didn't know that this was the inaugural episode. So, boy, thank you. Welcome. And I want to say good morning to everyone who's tuned in for a listen. A little bit about myself. Well, I've been around a while, but I will say that I've gone through many name changes over my life. From a little girl being Janie and then going to school, you know how you like to change your name. Then I became Connie. And then when I hit high school, for some reason, I wanted to go with my more formal name. So I became Constance. Then got married. So now I'm Mrs. Tate. Then had children. Now I'm mom. And shortly thereafter, I became a grandmother, but was then called, anointed with the name of Ami by our first granddaughter. We have no idea where she came up with that. I'm now mostly introduced as Ami for all the grandchildren and their friends, and now even my adult friends call me Ami. So to the audience, I guess I'm Ami. So I currently live in Sedona, Arizona. We moved here about 2 years ago. I spent more than 60 years in the Central Valley of California, very agricultural. And we had a local university, California State University, Stanislaus, where I obtained most of my educational background. Had a wonderful career in education. Been married to the same guy in August. It'll be 51 years. So
Congratulations.
all marrieds out there, keep a sense of humor. That's usually my advice. Started playing school and making up stories when I was about 5. It came as no surprise to family and friends that I eventually became a teacher, and once retired, took a pen in my hand and started writing children's books. It just made sense for me. I've had a very fortunate journey in doing exactly what I like to do.
That's really great. I think I read in your bio that you've been teaching for 40 years. Is that correct?
Yes, I was in education for 40 years. Started out in teaching preschool. My children were young and preschoolers. It was just a beautiful match. Taught kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Really became interested in the whole reading process, and earned my reading specialist credential and spent many years working with children who were struggling in reading. Such an important skill. So we definitely want to make sure we have the effective instruction that's in place for all kids. So after that, I decided to get my master's in curriculum and in instruction, and went to work for county offices, had the privilege of working in a lot of classrooms with many, many young teachers. Eventually became an adjunct professor at our local university and supervised, again, beginning teachers, and spent my last 10 years in education working across California in a project. So was eventually had the opportunity to work in 23 districts. So as you can see, I've always gravitated. I'm a magnet for teachers. It's funny. I will even be in Staples and someone will come up and ask me, were you a teacher? So I guess I kind of glow teaching.
You have that look.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we are here to talk about Rooster 99, and I believe this was your 4th book. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What other books do you have?
Oh, I started out with, I'm going to step away for just a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have Roll On. That's about a giant runaway spaghetti squash. And then there was Scooter Boy, little boy whose Cal is left behind at school. His mother is a little bit late in picking him up. And Cal decides he's going to find his way home by himself. And Sylvester's Catastrophic Tale. And that was, that's based on a true story of a little cat that unexpectedly finds himself in a cat food container and sails to Hawaii. So quite an unexpected adventure. And Rooster 99. Probably I would say Rooster 99 is my favorite.
They're such an eclectic group of books, and I think they all kind of have that humorous kick to them, just like Rooster 99. So that's fun. By the way, this is the Coffee and Kidlit show, and I live in Bergen, Norway at the moment. I'm from North Carolina, but I live in Norway. Been here for about 5 years, so I'm drinking coffee out of my Bergen cup. Comment below if you're watching live or watching the replay, what kind of coffee you like to drink the most. That'll be interesting to find out. This is a morning show. It's about 3 in the afternoon here in Norway, but it's about 6 in the afternoon for Connie. No, sorry, 6 in the morning for Connie. Designed to be, 9 o'clock Eastern time. So a little late for some, a little early for others, but that's just the way it is with a worldwide audience like this. So Rooster 99, it kind of seems like this could be based on a true story, and I think you even hint on that. But really, is it indeed a true story?
Well, I will tell you that Rooster 99 is a story about a little rooster. He eventually was named Rootie and is dropped by a tornado in the median divide of Highway 99. And he is terrified to open his eyes and find that he's surrounded by speeding cars and trucks and no way to cross the highway.
Yeah.
But Rudy's quite a thinker. And while he doesn't come up with a solution right away, Rootie perseveres. And I think that's probably a characteristic that I tend to use in all of my books, that perseverance. When things don't work out right away, what are you going to do? You have to keep trying. And probably when I was growing up, we had parents and teachers. There were always lots of sayings. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I would say Rooster has the qualities of not giving up and being kind and trying to get himself out of this predicament.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good characteristic, or even a good lesson for all kids, to have that perseverance. So I think that's really great. So if you read the story, Rooster 99, there is a sheriff deputy by the name of Deputy Tate. Any connection there? Is this a real person or is it just a made-up character?
Alan Tate is my husband's first cousin. And
Okay.
so we had to have Alan in there because as a sheriff deputy and being in the community and always helping, it just made perfect sense that he became the one who was going to actually help out with Rootie's predicament.
That's really great. I really like the scene in the book. Let me find it really quick. Rootie knew what he had to do. He had to open his eyes. First, he opened his left eye, then he opened his right eye. And that's just kind of a really creative image there for Rootie, and discovering where he was and how he got there, or maybe not how he got there, but how he's going to get out, racing against the traffic and all sorts of things. But eventually it was Rootie's natural instinct that led to his rescue or his getting across the street or back where he was supposed to be. Tell us a little bit about his natural instinct and why it's important for even us and children to lean on our natural instincts, if you would.
Oh, I like that. Well, I will tell you that when I started writing Rooster 99, I definitely did not know how I was going to get Rootie out of his predicament. I'll go back for just a moment. The element of truth behind the story and why it was so easy for me to have the setting begin in the median divide is that as in the Central Valley in the fall, it gets very foggy. And I would travel from one county to another county, up and down 99, commuting to work. And one morning an extremely foggy morning in the fall, traffic had really slowed. I was in the left-hand lane and we were just inching along. And out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw a little, I actually thought it was probably a cat or a dog running along in the median divide. And on my way home from work that night, I saw it again. Well, the fog had cleared. And so I was able to see it was a little rooster.
Oh, okay. So it is based on a true story then.
And so this little rooster, he would stay right close to the oleanders. It was before they had worked the highway. So we had these huge oleander bushes in the center. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that'll be the last time I see this little rooster. Well, I observed that little rooster for over 18 months living in the median divide. And I happened to be at a preschool fundraiser. I had been observing him for several months at that time. And I overheard a group of some other commuters. It was really quite interesting. I lived in one county. I drove this way. People in another county drove the other way. We apparently couldn't find jobs close to home. And they were talking about, have you seen that rooster is still there? So I joined in the conversation, and that was how, I thought, oh my goodness, we're all buzzing about this little rooster. But he was there for about 18 months. And so that's how the idea had originally came up, and the setting just had to be the median divide. And then with people talking, and I thought, well, how would I happened to be at an event where we're actually communicating face to face, but how would people communicate in their cars to one another if they saw him? And so then I came up with the idea of, well, Twitter. People would be on their phones and somebody would say, oh my gosh, what's that in the, middle of the median divide? And then that led to, you can see how my mind thinks. It's circular pattern. And then from the talking, I thought, well, Rootie has to have his voice in the book. And of course, his voice is his
Yeah.
cry,
Yeah.
which makes sense that he would rely on, as you refer to it, his natural instinct, but his own ability to, look inside him and see
Mhm.
how am I going to get out of here, and what ability or skill am I going to use? So,
Yeah.
way of saying that that's how he eventually uses his natural instinct.
Yeah. No, but I think that's great. Lots of times when we're faced with challenges or issues, we need to find sort of what we're good at, what our strengths are to get our way out. And that's exactly what Rootie did in the book. I think that's a great little tie-in to the story. And I love the pictures that you have. They're kind of like false Twitter posts in the book that just kind of give that appearance of people discussing and talking about the rooster in the median. Do you actually know how he was rescued, or how they got him out of the median, or did he just kind of disappear one day?
Just eventually, he just disappeared. Yeah,
Yeah.
he managed to uh, live safely for quite some time. I mean, and how he got there. I really I don't know that either.
Mm.
The tornado, or the funnel cloud, uh, that was tied in by a true incident. So
Okay.
that is something very rare that happens in our area.
Yeah.
But there was a quote tornado or funnel cloud that actually took a couple of roofs off during the fall, and so we
Mm.
brought that into the story too.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about this and kind of what inspired you to write this, but how did you determine, okay, this could be a really fun story to write about? And just tell us a little bit about how that developed.
Okay, and this is going to be tied to the illustrator also.
Yeah.
I had been I visit classrooms. During COVID, I would Zoom into classrooms, but at this time, I was physically going into classrooms and had read, I think it was Roll On, in with a group of first graders at a local elementary school. And we always end with a little Q&A. One of the girls in the class, it was early spring, she said, are you writing? What are you working on now? Are you writing any other stories? And I said, well, thank you for asking, because I have an idea about a little rooster. And he is stuck in the median divide of Highway 99. All the kids are familiar with Highway 99. They travel from one town to the next. And they were very excited. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, when I finish the story, I will come back and you'll be the first class to hear the story. Well, I just kind of hit a wall, and I could not, couldn't move the story forward. And Miss Ford at Walnut Elementary had called and said, well, the kids have been waiting. Are you going to come back and read the story to us? And I didn't want to disappoint them, but the story wasn't finished. So I took the text that I had, and it was printed out on big poster size pieces of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in with the kids, and the story hadn't been titled yet either. I was going back and forth from Rooster 99 to Highway Bird, and went into the classroom and, told the kids, well, I just, you're going to be my muse. I need some help here. So they were very eager to help. Read the story, and we had text on these large pieces of paper. The kids, first, they voted on the title. Hands down, it was Rooster 99. Had to be Rooster 99.
Yeah.
And then they got into groups, and they had maybe 2 lines of text. So the illustration that you showed earlier,
Mhm.
The kids came up with drawings of a little rooster with great big eyes, and one of them closed and one of them open. And
Yeah.
we had more fun. We changed some of the words. They wanted a couple of different words, and I don't have them in front of me. I can't remember exactly what we changed, but then we used the illustrations. I took everything home, finished the story, and then eventually the illustrations that we had were passed on to Kimberly. And so we have actually some of the, let's see. I think I have it right here. So there is a big poster, and this actually says thank you to all of the children. And these are the illustrations in the text that Kimberly brought to life that were initially drawn by the kids. So we had a lot of fun. So that's how we, but I just knew that the kids just loved the idea of a little rooster and being so brave and how hard he had to practice. So I knew Rootie had to come to life so he could be shared with others.
Well, that's really fun that you were able to get this classroom involved and really kind of take their ideas and put it together along with the illustrator. And I just want to bring her up a little bit now. Her name is Kimberly Hoffman. What was it like for the two of you to work together and to sort of put this book together? Because, writing an adult book is completely different from writing a children's book. There has to be this collaboration between the author and the illustrator in my mind. They're both very much involved and responsible for making it a well-produced book. So what was it like working with Kimberly on this?
Well, I had met Kimberly through one of my daughters, and I was actually looking for another illustrator, somebody who was a little bit closer to me. Sam, who illustrated my other books, was in the UK, and that was very interesting. But Kimberly had illustrated a children's book. She's a graphic designer, and we had kind of hit it off. Just personalities. We were very comfortable with each other. And I had mentioned to her that I had this idea about a little rooster. And before the story was even finished, I said, well, what would be, I kind of described the characteristics of Rootie. And so she sent me an initial drawing, and it was this drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved her use of color. And we said, okay. But once again, we had to do this over the computer. So it wasn't as if we got to sit down and have a cup of coffee and look at the drawings. Once the text was in place, then I sent the text to Kimberly, and then she came up with a storyboard. And it was quite fun because she was very open to ideas. I really appreciated, sometimes an illustrator will want, and I think in a children's book, you really need to have a give and take, because the person writing the words, you do have some images rolling around in your head. And Kimberly was able to take my words, and it's almost as if she was on my shoulder when she was, because taking in the freeway. And I liked the idea that some of the illustrations, especially with the tornado, you get a sense of movement.
Mm-hmm.
So she was just very open, just a lot of fun to work with. And as I said, her use of color, I think just really helped bring the story to life.
That's really great. Yeah. We do have a few more questions we're going to cover, but I just want to mention that Rooster 99 by Connie Tate, you can find a link to this book down in the description if you're watching this either live or the replay. If you want to read more about it or purchase it, just click the link down in the description. You mentioned earlier about your experience with sort of specializing in reading and teaching reading, and in your bio you mentioned the best practices for readers. Could you just quickly kind of go over that, and maybe that'll help with some of the watchers and their own kids,
Oh,
what some of the practices are?
absolutely. First, I'd like to assure parents, teachers, they're provided with some solid instruction. I mean, if you were looking just for 5 words, reading is such an important skill, and it is going to impact everything that kids do throughout their lives. So, we have these 5 elements or whatever that make up a strong reader. When children are very young, we're talking about, here's the reading term is phonemic awareness. What are kids hearing in words? It's those sounds. And you have to be able to, you've got to learn the code, the decoding. And there's a code, and it's interesting for kids. Which combination of letters make a particular sound? What do you do when you come to something completely unknown? And then there's also that element of fluency that kids in every skill, how well do they take what they learn and practice it so much it's just fluid? And then, of course, we're always building vocabulary. Throughout our lives, we're building vocabulary. Mine is actually shrinking. Everyone else's is growing. But it's subject, how you talk about the world, vocabulary, and comprehension. That's what teachers work on in reading from preschool through college. But what can parents do? And I'm often asked, okay, well, we don't want you to do a professional development on reading. What can I as a parent? And, I would say if there was one of those that is going to help kids move forward, and it's vocabulary. Vocabulary, as you hear the vocabulary, you say the word, you use the word, finally you see that word in print. And the one thing that parents, of course, we don't always use unfamiliar words in everyday speaking. So what's the one thing we can do? Well, here I am. Read aloud to your child. You're going to find opportunities to talk about new vocabulary, about characteristics. Sometimes there's a lesson. Sometimes that story is just for fun and just to sit and engage with your child. But and don't stop just because I still Zoom and read aloud with my grandchildren who no longer live near me, but we will now share the reading. So I'm not just reading to the young ones, but I have 2 5th graders, and they will Zoom and they pick out the book, and we follow a series, and definitely have lots of opportunities to talk about vocabulary and to make some corrections when words are, spoken incorrectly. With the younger children, you follow their interests, because they know what they want to learn about. Don't underestimate those science books. I'm a strong believer in informational books, and I think her, Carla Jansen, who has and has written A Dinosaur Made Me Sneeze. Carla is she was a biology high school teacher who has turned to writing children's books, and written in a narrative form, but very informational and lots of fun for kids. They'll want to hear that story over and over again. So if my advice is play with those letters and read those books aloud.
Yeah, and I think that's really great. We see it all the time, these statistics about the importance of reading and developing the vocabulary for your kids. And I love the idea of Zooming with your grandkids if you're not, close enough to do that. Of course, my family is on the other side of the ocean right now. So, different situations. We have the technology now to do that. And I think that's great. Um, so, what advice would you give to someone who is considering writing a book? Like we might have some people watching this show who are authors, or maybe they're aspiring authors. They haven't written anything yet, but it's in the back of their mind. They have an idea that maybe it's a rooster and a median. you know, um, what would you say to them?
Well, the first thing I would say is I know oftentimes we get an idea and we don't go forth because we begin to think of what's going to be required of us, or what kind of skill set am I going to need for the technical aspect, and you can almost talk yourself out of moving forward because,
Mhm.
well, oh, I know this, my idea is good, but what if, or and you play that game and you
Yeah.
just almost become paralyzed, and okay, well, I'm just not going to do it. So my advice is to, if you have an idea, however you tend to record things, if it's through, you use a tape recorder, maybe you use Post-its, maybe you jot down little ideas on Post-its, or you use a yellow tablet. I'm a big yellow tablet gal. I have lots of yellow tablets. My suggestion is just write it down. Pick up your pencil or a pen. I had a colleague who, what did he call it? A conscious stream of writing. You have that idea and you just start writing. If you can't think of
Mhm.
a word, you just draw a line, but you just keep writing. Maybe it's for only 20 minutes. Don't go back, don't start editing or looking for spelling, or you just keep writing. And when you have that story, pretty much, there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an ending, then go back and do
Mhm.
some cleanup. Now, and I know people immediately want to get some readers. For me, my first group are kids, because that's my audience.
Yeah.
I don't want to worry about, oh, how am I going to do this? Who am I going to? I like to go in and tell the story, even if I don't have it completely down on paper, even if it's in my head. I
Mhm.
like to find, and I do. I have 11 grandchildren, so I pretty much have a built-in audience. But
There you go.
there's always a group of children who we know and are fond of, and try it out with them, because kids are very honest. When I was writing Scooter Boy, and I would read it to, I would tell one of my grandsons, must have been about the age of 9, and in the car when I pick him up from school, and one day he said, "Well, you don't have enough in there about scooters, about how you do it." He said, "You should look up Corey Funk." I didn't know who Corey Funk was, but apparently he's a scooter guy
Yeah.
in Australia. So I knew I had to, that was what was interesting. And so we needed some scooter moves in the book. So uh, kids will tell you what is missing, or something that doesn't make sense, and you can then make some adjustments, then go on and grab your adult readers,
Mhm.
who will give you feedback, and be open to their suggestions. And then I start thinking at that point about an illustrator, because it is a group effort. So if you're working with, um, maybe you're working, I have another friend who has become a writer, and she works with a sister who does the illustrations. She writes the words, sister does the illustrations, and get an idea of that storyboard. And then at that point, it really does starts coming together.
Well, I think that's really great advice for an author who is considering writing a book and maybe they haven't even begun, is to just start writing. And you never know what might come of that. So I really appreciate that, Connie. Before we get on, I do have a couple more questions that I didn't give you. They're secret questions. But first, I just wanted to just tell a little bit more about the show, the Coffee and Kidlit show. This is a brand new show where I'll be interviewing authors about their inspiration. I already have about a dozen authors lined up this year for this show, which is really exciting. And I just wanted to show some of the books that are coming up. I have Mommy Has a Boo Boo, which is about introducing breast cancer to your children if you're dealing with that. There's The Not So Friendly Friend, which is how to set boundaries for healthy friendships. There's also this book called Fear Not. These books are from Christina Furnival, How to Face Your Fear and Anxiety Head On. And actually, just today, I got a couple of books in from Crystal Wallach, which you may be familiar with, Connie, and she does the Ari the Brave series books. I've got several other lined up. So it's going to be an exciting journey over the next several weeks, and I'm looking forward to talking to these authors. And so, if this is the kind of information that you want to learn about the inspiration behind these authors and why they wrote the books they did, I hope you will subscribe to this channel and follow along every Tuesday morning at 9 Eastern time. And I'm going to be focusing mostly on books that bring awareness to illness or disabilities, as well as faith-based books. As a believer myself, I'll be bringing on some Christian authors and things like that, and also just some fun books like Rooster 99. What a creative and fun story that is. So, Connie, just a couple more questions, and this will be the lightning round. Okay, so this is yeah. What was your favorite book as a kid?
My favorite book. Well, okay, so my youngest, under the age of, that K1, 2 was Horton Hears a Who by Dr. A person's a person, no matter how small. I loved Horton Hears a Who. I thought Horton was just the kindest character I ever had read, and read that story many, many times. I think I actually still have that book. It's just falling apart, but Horton Hears a Who. But then around fourth grade, I was introduced to the Nancy Drew and the what was it called? The Scarlet Slipper Mystery. And that sent me down falling in love with the whole genre of solving mysteries. So I would say those are my two. And I did read under the covers with my flashlight after I was told to, as many of us did.
I heard recently that parents should warn their kids, don't you dare read under the covers when you're going to sleep. It's kind of this reverse psychology, you might say.
Absolutely. Yes, and there's so many wonderful little book clips now with a light at the end. You can just snuggle up and do you fall asleep.
That's funny. So what was the last book you read to your kids, or in your case, your grandkids?
We have been, oh gosh, there's so many of them that we've been reading. The oldest daughter and I have been reading, what is it called? May I go get it so I can show you
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
okay, wonderful.
While we're waiting for Connie to come back, I hope you will join me next week. I'll be interviewing Carly Valentine, who is the author and illustrator of Extra Special Heart. And if you know of anyone who has a child or a family member who has dealt with congenital heart defect, this book is about her son who has CHD, and I'm really looking forward to interviewing Carly. So yeah, back to Connie.
So, Ren and I, this is our fourth, this is Pages and Company. This is the last in a series of 4, The Book Smugglers.
Yeah.
And we've had great fun. Lots of, the author is Anna James, and she is from the UK. And with another granddaughter, she just fell in love with this series, and it's Invisible Emmy that we're reading right now. And this is by Terry Livinson. So, yeah, they tend to like a series that we can get into. So we go from, the emphasis on one character to another and see how it unfolds. So those would be the last 2 that we're actually in right now. We have the last chapter tonight of the book. So quite fun.
Yeah. I have a 7-year-old son who I started reading the Narnia series to him. I guess it was last year, maybe. And we wrapped that up, and then I decided to read Mark Twain's the Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and that trilogy. And it's a bit beyond his scope of vocabulary, but like you mentioned earlier, I'm just trying to push his vocabulary a little bit. He's bilingual. Is that the right? Yeah, bilingual. He speaks Norwegian and English, and so just trying to encourage that vocabulary a bit with series.
Oh, that's fabulous. And that's exactly it, because we want to introduce those books that they wouldn't be reading yet on their own.
Mm-hmm.
We're introducing the vocabulary and that engagement. So, and you can actually spend the time talking about how what that means within the sentences. So that's fabulous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Connie, for joining me this morning. I know it's very early for you, and had a good time talking to you and learning more about your journey as an author as well as a teacher, and just a fantastic story. Thank you so much for everything you've done throughout your career in teaching children and teaching them how to read. And that's great.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, well, before we say goodbye, if we have any listeners out there, I've taken Rooster 99 and I put some words to a little song. And so if you go to my website, rollonreading.com, or if you just drop me an email, ctateread, that's READ, at att.net, I will send you this little, we'll go this way, the words to the song. And there's a couple of also activity pages that you will also receive for your children. And so now I know our audience is probably younger than I am, but there used to be an old, there was a television series called The Beverly Hillbillies. Do you remember them, Travis?
Absolutely.
Okay. So for some reason, one day I had in my overtime, can I keep talking? So I took some words from the story and I put them to the tune of the Beverly Hillbillies. And of
Please sing it.
course, verses, and of course, this is the chorus.
Yeah.
So I won't do the whole thing, but something like this. Let me tell you a tale of a rooster in the road. He landed with a plop and was left out in the cold. Where he ended up was in the median divide, and he ran and he ran. He was really terrified. And then the children sing, of course, cock-a-doodle-doo.
That's great.
So
Thank you so much, Connie. I put your email address up on the screen here, ctatereed@att.net. If anyone wants to get in touch with you for those activity sheets or the sing along that you just read to us or sang to us, and just once again, if you enjoyed this show, please hit subscribe and hit the bell down below so that you can get all of the episodes. Again, next week I will be with Carly Valentine. So I'm going to put a link. I believe it's in the description already, so that you can just click that link and hit the notify button, and it'll let you know when we're live. So thanks for joining us. And if you have any questions for Connie, you can email her at the email address up on the screen. Also, if you are an author and you would like your book on the show, or if you would like to be on the show, you can send me an email at travis@launchmissions.com. I'll put that down in the description as well. So thanks everyone for watching, and have a great day.
thank you. Thanks, Travis. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you.